Hello, everybody, and welcome to our new book, which is called Proportional Reasoning Part 2. And we're going to go to the very first page, which is the word bank. These are notes. Okay, the very first word is discount. And when you get a discount, you have to pay less for an item. So it's also called markdown. You pay less. For an item. And what you do, a discount can be as a percent. Discount. Or a dollar amount discount. So when you have a discount, you subtract from the original price. Okay, markup is when you pay more. It's called an increase. So increase means you pay more. Again, it can be in percent. And this is the symbol for percent. Or it can be a dollar increase. It's not the same. Dollar amount. Okay, you find it by you add more. So you add the increase to your original price. Okay, percent. This is the symbol again, the little 2. Yeah, it means out of 100. So the whole part is out of 100. And then it's that is 100%. The whole is 100%. Or for example, 1% is 1 out of the 100. 1 part out of 100 parts. Or another example, 15% means you got 15 out of the 100 parts. Okay, 15 out of the 100 is the same as 3/20. Think about it. Or we can express it as a decimal. 15% is the same as 0.5 out of 1. Okay, so these are all the representations of percent. Percent increase in a quantity. The increase is the new value or new amount minus the old value or the old amount, what it cost. Okay. And so, for example, if something was $10 originally, and all of a sudden it goes up, let me make that different. It goes up to $20, or let's say $12. That's my example. So something costs $10, now it goes up to $12. So you take the 12 and subtract the 10 and you get a $2 increase. Yeah, so $2 increase. And to find the percent, you do 2 is 20%, and I'll show you later how to find that, of $10. So your percent of increase is 20%. Okay. Percent decrease, so something gets cheaper. Decrease is always less. So that would be less. So it's the old value minus the new value. So the order matters when you subtract. Be careful. So for example, something costs $20 and it goes down, and all of a sudden it costs $10, right? From 20 down to 10, decrease. To find the percent, you take the 20, so the old value minus the new value. So that's $10. 10 is 50% of the old value was 20. So the percent of decrease is 50%. But we're going to learn how to do that, so don't worry, okay? Percent of a number. So the percent of a number is you change the percent to a decimal by moving decimal point I'm thinking, I have to think for a second. So you got the percent, 2 spaces to left. Then multiply by the number. So I'm going to show you that. Multiply by number. So for example, let's say you want to find 25% of 50. So you take the percent and you move your decimal 2 spaces over here. So that turns into 0.25, because I can add a 0 here, okay? And then you multiply it by 50. Use a calculator. 0.25 times 50. Go grab a calculator right now. Pause your video and put that in. You can use your times button on your calculator, and then equals, and you get an answer of 12.5. So 12.5 is 25% of 50. So that's how you do that. Okay, let's go to the next page, and it's about this picture. So on top, we're going to put homework, but I'm going to give you the question I want you to ask yourself. So we got the little plant here and the tree. So the plant, was originally 2 feet tall, and then now it's 4 feet. So then and now. Plant. The trees was originally 10 feet tall, and now it's 12 feet. Come on, little machine. And then back then it was same time frame, and now it's 12 feet. Okay, now here's the question for you to think about. No right or wrong answer. Which do you think had a greater growth spurt? Spurt. The plant or the tree? So that your answer goes right here. And why? You need to explain, okay? So you explain your answer. All right, well, that page should be not right or wrong. It's on your opinion, what you think. So those questions never are like totally right or wrong, whatever you're thinking about, okay? And then we are going to the next page. And this is getting started, which is always a good homework thing because it usually is super easy. So I'm gonna give you that as homework. So percent as a number. We will use an area model. This is an area model. Money references, the multiplicative identity, referred to as the big one. Remember the big one from fractions, and division to explore fraction, decimal, and percent concepts. Use a calculator. You're gonna need one. In one question, it says no calculator, but mostly we will use a calculator, okay? And we already filled in section 2.5. We already filled in the word in our word bank. If it's not in the word bank, you need to go to the back of the book and look it up, you know, where after the vocabulary puzzle, okay? Make sure you include the percent symbol. That one, okay? Shade 1/2 of this grid. The shading shows that 1/2 is how many out of, these are 100 squares. That's your whole. Okay, so you're shading 1/2 out of the whole. Then you fill in this, okay? Write 1/2 of a dollar in cents. 1/2 is 50 cents, right? Write 1/2 as a percent. 1/2 out of 100. Think about it. Write 1/2 of a dollar in dollars. That's this one. Okay, so if you have a dollar sign here, you write it like that. If you have the cent sign, you write it like that. Write 1/2 as a decimal. So you divide your 1 divided by 2, use your calculator. 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. Okay, so when you write the fraction as a decimal, divide. Yeah, but the order of division is important. Top divided by bottom. Top divided by bottom, not the other way around. Order matters when you divide. And so you keep that up down here, same thing. And we'll see how far you get, and good luck. And then we are on page 3. So let's look what we're doing here. So this also homework, but I'm going to give you several examples from this page. So let's look at the very first one. This is an area model because you have an area here. We will use an area model to explore percents. Each drawing represents a garden. The shaded part represents the portion that is planted. Answer all problem parts based on the given garden for that problem. Notice the problems go downwards. Yeah. So problem 1 has all these parts. 2, all these parts. So I'm going to do 1 for you, and then you can do 2 and 3. What fractional part is planted? So I notice I have 10 by 5. So the whole thing is 50. And planted are 3, 4, 5, 6, 17. So 17, so you count how many are shaded, and the total is 50. And the way I do that real quick is length times width. That's the number if you do it quick, okay? So 17 parts out of the whole 50 are shaded. Shade this garden so that the same fractional part is planted. So I have to think, this had 50 squares, this has 100 squares. Because it's a 10 by 10. So if the squares doubled, my shaded part has to double. So I'm going to say 17 times 2 is 34. Now I have to shade 34. So I'm going to do 30, which is this, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is all shaded. This is all planted. So I have 34 out of 100. So 17 out of 50 is the same as 34 out of 100. Yeah, complete this equation. This is where your big 1 comes in. The big 1 from our fraction book, 50 times what is 100? We got to multiply top and bottom by the same number, which is our big 1, right? Do you remember that? So 34 out of 100. Write this fraction as a decimal. You can use your calculator. You can say 34 divided by 100 equals, and you'll see it's 0.34. Yeah, you can use your calculator, or you simply move your decimal 2 spaces to the left. Write this fraction as a percent. So here comes the part. Your decimal, when you write it as a percent, super important, you're going to move your decimal 2 spaces to the right, not to the left. Left when you change from percent to decimal, and to the right when you change from decimal to percent. So that's 34%. Okay, so you're going to do number 2 and 3 on this page. All righty, and then they're going to give you this again on the next page, page 4. You're going to have another fraction garden. So they're driving this one home, but I'm going to do the last one for you. So on top, you can write homework. So I'm going to do number 6. What fractional part is planted? 1 out of 10 by 2 is 20. Shade this garden so that the same fractional plant. So these were 20 squares. These are 100 squares. So now I have to think, how many of these ones do I have to do? 5 of them. Because 100 is 5 times bigger than 20. There go 20 of these chunks going to 100. 5 of these chunks, I should say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you add that up, That's 100, right? So it's five of these go into this. So that means I got to shade 5 of these. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now my shading shows that 1 out of 20 is the same as 5 out of 100. So 1 out of 20 times 5. The big one is 5. 5 is 5 out of 100. And we're going to write this fraction as a decimal. Use your calculator. 5 divided by 100. Use a calculator. It's this. Not 0.5. This is wrong. This would be 50%. Write this fraction as a percent. Remember, you're moving your decimal 2 spaces to the right. 5%. So you shaded 5% of the whole 100. 5 out of 100 is 5%. Okay. And now this down here, I'm not sure if you can answer it. Try it. There's one question I couldn't figure out, and I'm going to make that like a, somebody can tell me what they want there. I could not figure out what they're expecting. Next page, this was page 4. Next page 5, another homework, another fractional garden. By the time you're done with this one, you're going to be good. But I'm going to do number 3 for you. What fractional part is planted? 4 out of all 4. By the way, you can write it like this or like that. Do not write it like that. That doesn't look good. I should make it clear that it's a fraction. So you can also say 4 out of 4. So it's just so is there a little bit on top, right? Shade the 100 square so that the same fractional part is planted. You got to shade it all. The whole thing. Shade it all. Okay, I'm not doing so good on this. You guys probably like that better. Every square, all of them. My shading shows that 4 out of 4 is the same as 100 out of 100. Complete the equation, show the big one. 4 out of 4 times 4 times what is 100? You can find that number by doing 100 divided by 4. Gives you that big one. 4 times 25 is 100 out of 100. Find big one. Like this. Write this fraction as a decimal. 100 divided, it's 1. Or simply 1. So the number 1 is always 100%. And write it as a percent, 100%. So that's, then there's a little question down here for you. Okay, this is interesting. We're now on page 6. This is about money. So money works really well with percent because a dollar has 100 cents. So that it goes really good with 100. This is a quarter, 25 cents, a penny, 1 cent. What's that? Looks like a nickel, which is 5 cents, a Susan B. Anthony dollar, which is 100 cents. And this is a 50-cent piece, I think. And this is a dime, which is 10 cents. And who's on the coin? This is going to be a, up here. Let's fill that in. So let's put, I'm just giving an example, 6 cents. The way you write it is either 6 cents or in dollar form 0.06. Those are the 2 ways to write that. Yeah. or you can say 6 out of 100. Yeah. Like if you have 0.35 cents, it's 35% of a dollar. And here's a question: how can you make 35 cents out of these? So you could take 1/4, which is 25 cents, plus 1 dime, which is 10 cents. Or you could take 3 dimes, 10 cents, plus 1 nickel, which a nickel is 5 cents. Those are all possibility. Or you could do 7 nickels. Or you could do 35 single cent pieces. And nobody does that, hopefully, when you pay, but some people do. Okay, who's on the coin? So this is interesting. On a quarter. Who's on the quarter? It's President Washington. George is his name, first president of the United States. A long time ago. Does anybody know when about? I believe like 1776 or so, or 1780 or something, when they started having presidents. The value is the value in cents. It's called a quarter. And the value in cents is 25 cents. The value as a fraction is 25 of 100, or value as a percent of a dollar, it's 25% of a dollar. And by the way, 25 over 100 is the same as 1/4. It's a quarter. And the value as a decimal is 0.25. So these here will give you, B is a penny. And who's on there? President Abraham Lincoln. And he was Lincoln. He was assassinated in 1665, I believe, right after the end of the Civil War, in a movie, in a theater. And he was the president that he was the president during the Civil War when the slaves were liberated. Yeah. Now the cent, the penny as a dollar, as a fraction, is 1 over 100. 1 out of 100, and that's 1% of a dollar. And as a decimal, it's actually 0.01, because remember, we got to move our decimal 2 spaces to the left, right? So if you take 1%, write it with some zeros and go 1, 2. Oh, wait, the other way. Oh, the other way around. Got to go to the left when you change it from a percent to a decimal. So you can put some zeros in front and go 1, 2. That's how you count that, okay? And then we have the nickel. This one is the President Thomas Jefferson. And I don't know about Thomas Jefferson much, but I believe he was there when the Jefferson, he was one of the people that signed the Declaration of Independence, I think. I'm hoping I get this right. If not, correct me. And the value is 5 cents. It's called a nickel. Okay, so it's 5 out of 100, which is the same as 1 out of 20. And as a percent is 5% of a dollar, and you write it as 0.05. Now this is called a Susan B. Anthony dollar coin, and it's very rare. Nobody uses it because it gets confused with quarters. People got mad that they would give that as a quarter when it's worth $1. So they're not making those much anymore. So since it's a dollar, it's 100 cents, and it's $1. 100 cents is 100 out of 100, or 1. It's 100% of a dollar, and as a decimal, it's 1.0 or 1. And then on the, what's that, 50-cent piece, half dollar, 50-cent piece is President John F. Kennedy. And Kennedy was elected in, I believe, 1960, but he was assassinated in 1962 by, who assassinated him? Look it up. That's just slipped my mind. Some fanatic, very sad, young president. I think back then he was the youngest president the White House ever had. He was only in his 40s, early 40s. And his wife was Jacqueline. She was a fashion model, really, they said. Not that she was, but she was always very well dressed. 50 over 100 is 1/2. So that's 50%. And as a decimal, 0.5. And the last one is our dime, which is 10 cents. And the president is Franklin D. Roosevelt. I think his middle name is Delaney, Franklin D. Roosevelt. And I think he had trouble with his health. He was once, I think that was him that was paralyzed when he was a kid. But he got over it. He was in the early 1900s, like maybe 1920 or 30, I'm not sure. But this is 10 cents, which is a dime. And so 10 cents is 10 out of 100 pennies, which is the same as 1/10. So this is the same as 10%, and it's the same as 0.0. As a decimal, it would be that. So now your job is to figure out what they want here. I'm not sure. This doesn't make sense to me. So I'm going to put a big question mark. If you figure that out and it's correct, I'll give you extra credit. I do not know what they want. And then we're almost done. We got another practice sheet, and this is page 7. And I think we're almost done with this first lesson. And so let's make this homework, but I'll give you a few clues. Complete the table. The fraction is 1/4. Now to get the decimal, remember you can use your calculator and do 1 divided by 4 equals. Remember you divide top down. That's the order. 1 divided by 4 equals 0.25. 25 hundredths, and as a percent, it's 25%. And then the next one I want to show you is this one. You guys fill in this. 70% as a decimal is 0.70, and as a fraction, it's 70 out of 100. And then you need to reduce, which is 7 out of 10. You want to reduce your fraction. Or simplify. Remember, you divide by the big 1. So you would divide top and bottom by 10, or you can simply cancel the common zeros. And that's called 70 hundredths. Oh, and by the way, the ending is weird. Hundredth with a TH, I think. Hundredths, because it's part. This always indicates part. So you're going to fill the rest in, and then down here Interestingly enough, I think I'll do number 10. A 25-person dance crew includes 9 boys. What's the percent of girls? So 9 boys. How many girls? 25 minus 9, you have to subtract that. 16 girls. So 9 out of 16. So use your calculator and divide. 9 divided by 16. What percent of the crew are girls? Nope, I didn't do that right. Good that I started on that one. So we want to know the difference. So nope. We need to find the difference. This is a tricky one. From 9 to 69 boys, 16 girls. The difference is 7. So you go 16 minus 9 is 7. So you take 7 out of the total, which is 7 divided by 25. No, that doesn't work right either. Okay, that won't work. Oh, gosh, I'm having a mental block. You girls, the girls are 16, right? You could do the girls, the number of girls out of the total. There we go. That's it. The number of girls, you got to find that number first out of the total. And then you divide. Gosh, teacher, 16. But you notice checking your numbers makes sense. There's more girls than boys. So definitely your percent should be bigger. Mine were always too small. 0.64 when I divide, and then you move your decimal, which makes it 64% were girls. All right, so 16 girls turned into 64%. The percent compares it to the whole, the total. And that's a better comparison than numbers. Percent always gives you a better comparison than the numbers, okay, because it considers the whole. And the rest is yours. Good luck, and we'll see you next time.